was told.
Really was.
Call this meeting to order. Start with pledge allegiance and a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, before we start, I hope everybody had a nice holiday. It's cold out tonight. Maybe winter's finally arrived. All right. Alterations to the agenda, there are none. This is a special meeting, so there are no alterations allowed to this agenda. And we'll go right into presentations, and we'll start with Mohegan, please.
I'd like to call my buddy Jack Yon. Come on down, Jack. So Jack was nominated by his 5th grade teacher, Mr. Smith, who stated, Jack has been a great role model in the classroom since coming to Mohegan. He's an extremely kind student, always looks to include others in activities in the classroom, and has done a great job of following our classroom charter. He's always happy to be in school and comes to class every day with a smile and on his face and ready to learn. But more impressively, Jack's also a great sibling and is doing something inspiring and selfless. Jack's younger sister has an immune system illness and needs to have a bone marrow transfusion. Jack was the only family member with a match and immediately volunteered to be a donor. So, for your selflessness and leadership, you're our model model. And Krista Scarano. Chris is a 3rd grade teacher at Mohegan and really is everyone's go-to at Mohegan. She's a true asset to our community, not only the Mohegan community, but the Montville community in general. She's always willing to help out at Mohegan or in the district, volunteering for committees, and just being the person that anyone can go to, especially for technology. One of her colleagues wrote, Krista is encouraging, approachable, and the best colleague I could have asked for coming into my role. My skills as a teacher will forever be impacted in a positive manner by the resources and support she provides. Other comments included, Krista is my go-to. She always has time to help. So congratulations, Krista, on being the Mohegan Model.
Thank you.
Okay, Murphy, please.
I'd like to call up Ashley Kobelski. I'm not sure if I think everybody has heard that we've got a para shortage. And Ashley is one of our newest paras this year. And not only has she stepped in tremendous ways, but most importantly, she stepped in to help with 4th and 5th grade math. And I don't know if some of the parents in the room have sort of started to shake when they see those, homework problems come home in 4th and 5th grade, but she jumps in, she tackles it. I had a teacher tell me that, and this teacher was one of the people who helped nominate, that in class one day they were doing a math problem and the kids were kind of scratching their heads and the teacher was scratching her heads and she's like, no, we're gonna do it. And they stuck to it and they came up with some other solutions and it was just a really rich conversation in the classroom and it was really truly based on the inspiration of her hard work and effort. So for that, we are truly grateful, and we wanted to present this award to you.
Thank you.
So. I would also like to call up Riley Wardley. Come on up, Riley. So each year, the state of Connecticut, I think it's the librarians, nominate books for this award. It's called the Nutmeg Award, and they put forth about 15 books, right? And Mrs. Kane, our library media specialist, does little book talks and encourages the kids to read the books, and then they can vote on which one is their favorite. Riley read all 15 this year. Riley's a third grader. So that is the definition of marvelous. So we're really proud of you, and that's an amazing accomplishment. So congratulations. This year. The second grade play was Bailey and the Bees, and he played Bailey the bear. He did a wonderful job in that, and that was a big, challenge to stand up in front of the whole school and the community and do that performance several times. He did great. He's a leader in the classroom, always working hard and just helpful with others, and I think that that's deserving of a Montville Marvel. So congratulations, kids.
Montville Elementary, please.
We brought some friends to present our award with us tonight. Jeremiah is being honored tonight for his efforts in overcoming obstacles and consistently demonstrating improvement in decision making. He has found adults that he can trust, and he's let them guide him. He has built trustworthy relationships with supportive adults, specifically Officer Ailshire, our SRO. Recently, he has earned taking walks with Officer Ailshire for safety checks, leading to his honorary title as Safety Officer Assistant. We are so proud of Jeremiah's growth, and we're so excited to see him continue on this journey. I know Officer Ailshire wants to say a couple things.
On our safety checks of the school, we've actually found some things that needed to be addressed, haven't we? So on a daily basis, he is making the community and the school safer. And here is a badge, just like I have, that you can wear, and it has your name, and it has your badge number is 425A, because mine is 425. Can I pin it on you? All right, here you go. Jeremiah, this is our chief of police.
As the chief of police, I hear what a great job you're doing. So, by my authority, I am making you an honorary Montville police officer. Congratulations.
Well, congratulations to all our Montville Marvels. This is the best part of our meeting. We encourage everybody to stay, but at this time, I'd like to leave. Probably be a good time because we're going to start our regular agenda. So, it's your choice. Thank God, Jenny, you stay. You're like loyal.
I am loyal. It is. I think everybody's like, oh, she always. It's part of our teachers' union and Constitution that I attend every meeting. I mean, I do enjoy coming. I do enjoy coming, but I have to, or send somebody in my place.
All right, thank you. All right, citizens' comments regarding agenda items only. Any citizens' comments regarding agenda items only? One more time, any citizens' comments regarding agenda items only? Hearing none, we'll move right into letters and communications.
I have none.
Thank you. Approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Second, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, thank you, board. Budget update. Lori's going to do it tonight for us, so.
Unfortunately, Kathy Lamoureux had a medical emergency this morning. Everything is good. She's good, but she couldn't be here. And this is not a meeting she would miss because we're not only doing her a budget update, but also the capital plan. I know she wants to be here. I do have just a few things that I'll say that we had talked about together that I know she wanted to share with you. The first is around the ARP ESSER grant. As we reported to you early this year, we have slowed our use of the ARP ESSER grant as much as we possibly can because the state has received from the federal government official notice of a 14-month extension for liquidation, but not obligation of the grant. So by the normal deadline, which was this next October, we need to obligate all of the money, but we don't have to actually liquidate it for another 14 months. We are, as much as we possibly can, trying to conserve some of that money so that as we enter this, I anticipate, quite difficult budget year, we can maybe take that budget cliff that the loss of the grant would give to us and split it over 2 years. So we're trying to balance that and meeting and talking about that. We'll present a plan for closing out the grant when we present the operating budget because the two will go hand in hand. We wanted to report to you on the tennis court project. As you know, there was a $1 million bond that was hopefully covering both the tennis courts replacement and the track resurfacing. The way that's looking now, almost all of that is going to have to go to the tennis courts replacement. We told you that it came in over budget. It's ending at about $925,000, so we'll only have about $75,000 left for the tennis court replacement. You will see when we go over the capital plan that we've put the difference in what we think that track resurfacing will cost into the capital plan so that we can still go forward with that. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Tile roof replacement is going underway. As we informed you, we did receive the state school construction grant for the tile roof. We are at this moment submitting all, or our architect engineer are submitting all the necessary paperwork to the state before we can go out to bid. We need to go out to bid in March if we want to do that this summer, so that is the plan, and we've talked to the architect just this week to say, hey, is everything submitted, because we got to get this project moving. And lastly, we will be working on presenting the operating budget to you for FY25. If you would just hold February 27th as a meeting date for working on that budget. Oh, Will's was just saying for clarification with that ESSER grant extension, it cannot be used for salaries. It can't be used to pay any of our employee wages. So that's the wrinkle in trying to see how we can use that as we go forward, but we need to move any salaries of personnel that are in the grant that we want to keep into the budget. And that's why these two are tied very tightly. We'll talk about that at the budget meeting.
Thank you. Old business, discuss plans to address new kindergarten legislation.
As you know, the legislation that we presented to you earlier is that the entrance age of kindergarten has changed from turning 5 in January to turning 5 by September 1. And we have to have a process by which we assess students if parents ask us so that they can be waived from that requirement and enter early. We have met the elementary principals, some of the representative kindergarten and preschool teachers, and tried to look through and develop that process. And we are ready now to communicate that to the community so that everyone knows and is aware. We're going to do our best to cast as wide a net in this communication as we possibly can, because while we can communicate with all of our families, communicating with every parent who isn't one of our families but has an upcoming kindergarten is a little trickier. So we'll get that on social media, through the paper, etc. But what our plan would be is that we will put out notice to everyone tomorrow. I just wanted to talk to you about it tonight first, of the kindergarten waiver process. They will all receive a handout, which is in your board materials online, that notifies them of a written request that's due to us that they want to request a waiver. So we'll get that written request. We'll then invite them to a Zoom meeting, everyone that's put a request in, and go through the process with them so everyone understands it. We will do a screening that we actually do on all of our kindergarten students. Usually with regular registration, we set up appointments for a Brigant screening. We will do that with these students as well. We will also have a mandatory in-person process, because what we really want to see is
mandatory
in person.
In person,
So we
thank
will
you.
invite them in. We will use a Wednesday when our preschool doesn't meet, so those classes are free, because we want to see these students in a classroom setting. We want to understand that not only are they academically ready for kindergarten early, they are also behaviorally able to interact in the classroom, interact with peers. So we'll be doing an observation, and we will free up our kindergarten teachers and our preschool teachers to help with that process. We think, but it depends upon the number of waivers, that all of that will occur at Oakdale in the preschool, unless we got some huge number of waiver requests, which frankly, I don't think we will, but we really don't know. Which is why we're trying to get this all out, that you need to put a letter in, we need to know that you want to go through this process so we can start to get a better understanding. Also, obviously, that's a budgetary consideration as well. After we finish the Berkamp screening and the in-person screening, then we are working on a rubric that we'll use to evaluate each student and communicate to the families that they do qualify for early entry to kindergarten or they do not. And then we are also obviously going to be promoting our regular kindergarten registration as well. That's always difficult for us because parents dribble in and we need to know our kindergarten numbers. So since we're communicating all of this in a big splash anyway, we'll try and communicate hard and fast dates. Don't take it outside this room, but they're not really, oh, you're taping? They're not really hard and fast. If they come later, we can't turn them down. But we want people to really know that it's important to us to know who our kindergarten students are as early as we can. So that regular kindergarten registration would be in March. Those students will also go through the Berkamp screening, not for the purpose of determining whether they can enter or not. Every student who has a birthday by September 1 is guaranteed entry to kindergarten, but that screening we do every year because it helps us understand students' needs, think about their placement, and potentially invite them to a summer kindergarten readiness program that Diane runs that runs for 3 weeks and really helps some of those students that need a little something before kindergarten starts. So I don't know if you have any questions about that, if you have a chance to look at the flyer that we developed, but the plan would be we start to scoot that out in every way we can think of tomorrow.
Do you have a timeline already set for how far in advance they have to apply for a waiver?
We do. All the dates are on that flyer, so everything is here, and it starts early. So they'll get this notice tomorrow. We're asking for a written request by February 7th. The reason that's so tight is all of us know when you get a notice, if it's not due for a month, that notice goes someplace. We want people to get the notice and know you need to do this right now. It's not a hard thing. You just need to send an email saying, I'm requesting a waiver for my student whose birthday is here, and get that information to us. So,
Are you going to have a deadline for the waiver too?
For the waiver request will be February 7th. The Zoom meeting, the 15th of February. Then we have windows for the screening. The Berkamp screening, there'll be a window with the in-person, and we're putting it out right now. There's a mandatory date. We need you here that day.
Okay, so they have to do it by February 7th.
Correct. The difference would be, however, if you aren't a resident as of February 7th, like you move in later, we'll have a summer date and do it the same process again in August for people who aren't residents at this time.
You said that Diane will work with the students who will be 5 years old if they're a little bit behind to get them ready. The 4-year-olds that are going to turn 5, is there some kind of a evaluation of
The
5?
4-year-olds who are going to turn 5, in other words, they're coming in still 4, need to go through this waiver process. If they need a little extra, we would not admit them early. We would say, please come back next year. We also, though, talked in our committee about things that we would give them. These are, websites and materials that you might use to help your child prepare, because based upon, our screen at this time, they do need another year, and these are things they might benefit from. So the K-Readiness program that Diane, she doesn't work with the kids specifically, but she runs it. We have a staff that does that. Is for students who, based upon their birthday, are admitted to kindergarten, but they're not quite ready.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the superintendent? Okay, thank you. All right, on to new business. Appointment of Willie Quinones as Director of Facilities.
Willie Quinones is here in the room, and I'm very pleased to present him to you this evening as our new Director of Facilities. Wills Pike represented the board in this search. Willie lives in New London and has served as Director of Facilities in North Stonington, and he's currently Director of Facilities in East Windsor. Both superintendents were highly complimentary of Willie, telling me they would rehire him without hesitation. His current superintendent is very sad to see him go. He told me he has nothing but positive things to say about Willie. He described him to me as someone with the highest integrity, a tremendous work ethic, and someone who holds the respect of all. He will start in Montville on February 12th. Steve will be leaving prior to that. There's about a 2-week gap in Steve's leaving and Willie's starting, but Steve will be returning for several days of overlap, and he and Willie can determine, whether they want to do a few half days and what the timing of those will look like. But we very much look forward to Willie's start, and I can't wait to introduce you to your team, Willie, but I'm very pleased to introduce you to the full board and our administrative team over there.
Thank you.
So on behalf of the Board of Education, congratulations. We look forward to working with you as we do with the other administrators, and wish you the very best.
Carl's buying a new house, and today's his closing and loading the moving truck. He thought he was going to sneak out and be here, and you know how that goes. I've done that, and I didn't think he was going to be able to sneak out and be here. I'm going to be going through that with you, and if you have questions, obviously ask me, but if you need to defer them to Steve or Kathy, then we'll do so. The very top of the first 2 pages of this are basically an index to the rest of the capital plan. I'm going to give you one too, so that you, since you're going to own this. So the first 2 pages are kind of an index to the detailed pages that follow. On that first page, you can see up at the very top above the gray line are things that were approved in prior years, but are leases that are extending in terms of the towns needing to pay for those leases. Those are continuing. So you can see we had one lease for buses from 5 years ago that's coming off, but we still have existing leases on buses and then the smart board lease that we entered into last year. So those are up at the top of the page, and then below that you can see the things that we've got divided by things in the capital plan that we think we should undergo in 24-25, then 25-26, and so on, going out 5 years. And that's how we always present the capital plan, is 5 years out. And I know some of you are new to this, so just slow me down or stop me if you have questions as we go through it. So if you go to the first project, you will see that first page is just the smart board lease, and it's just there for your edification, but it's already been approved and it's already in fact been done. Smart boards have been installed. They were all installed this summer and September, and now we just have the small thing of the lease to pay to cover the cost of those smart boards. The next one is the bus situation, and I tried for the first time last month to present to you a long-term look at bus replacement. Typically what we've done with a capital plan with a bus replacement is we just surface the needs for that 1 year. And then the next year we surface another need and another need. We don't do that with anything else. Everything else we try to give the town a heads up is this is a 5-year look at what your costs would be. So what we tried to do with that district master plan for the transportation department that I presented to you last month was get a look at a longer term bus replacement cycle so that we can give the town a heads up in that. The next year bus replacements would be one 77 passenger bus, that's a large bus, and then one small bus, and that small bus is actually more expensive than the large bus because it would be for handicapped students. That requires air conditioning and a lift. So this purchase price, these are estimates that we were quoted from Bluebird, $128,000 for that large bus, $150,000 for the smaller bus with the lift and air conditioning. And I explained that replacement cycle to you last time. The documentation for that is in to the district master plan, which is in this board meeting's packet as well as last board meetings as well. But basically we're looking at 2 buses that are 2016. One has currently 150,000 miles. We'll put another at least 10 on as we go through the rest of this year. And the other, the small bus, has about 130,000 miles on it. And then you can see in the other years, and we put a little bit in our description there, just thinking through what would it look like 3, 4, 5 years out in terms of bus replacement. Questions on that? The next item is a van replacement, and this is actually, we have a small bus that we need to retire. Rather than replace this small bus, we really need wheelchair transportation more significantly than we do another small bus. So we're looking at asking for a wheelchair van to replace one of the small buses, as I explained to you last month. And that wheelchair transportation is, right now, we have the ability simultaneously to transport 3 students in wheelchairs. We have one vehicle that can take 2, one that can take 1. We have 5 students in wheelchairs. Obviously, we're not transporting them all at once because they're not all at the same level. But if we had another student come in, that would be a significant issue for us. And we have no way to take one of those buses off the road. So if it breaks down, it needs service. We don't have another way to transport those students. So that's why we're asking to replace a small bus with a wheelchair van. And again, those are costly because of the lifts involved. So that you see the 115 asked the first year. In future years, we're just looking at a van replacement cycle for our normal vans, which we use to transport Transition Academy students, Palmer students, the mail runs, et cetera, as we again explained last week.
I just want to make sure I understand this. So are we replacing or adding another wheelchair bus?
No, we're taking a small bus off and replacing it with a wheelchair van.
And then got it, thank you.
The next thing, some of you have encountered this difficulty, is our door security system. That door security system doesn't always work, and it is well past its life. The system is obsolete, we cannot get parts for it. So when it doesn't work, repairing it's a difficult issue for us because there are no replacement parts. We're looking on eBay and here and there trying to scavenge things for that, and we've had multiple issues with it over the last couple of years. We did put replacement of this security system throughout the whole district in our security grant application in 2023. We did not get funded in that grant, so we're putting the full cost of that in the capital plan at this point. Last time we put in we expect we'll get about 70% reimbursement, or we were hoping for that, but that did not come through. I have not seen any sign of another security grant application out there. I did look just this morning just to make sure there's nothing coming. So at this point, we've got that in the budget. It's a concern because when that goes, we don't have a backup. It's pretty important for security of the building that we have that door access. Tyrol Wireless was actually out another year in our capital plan last year. In other words, it wasn't in 24-25, it was in 25-26, and the high school wireless was in for next year. High school wireless is doing better than we thought, and Tile Wireless is doing much more poorly than we thought it would. We're having a lot of difficulty with access at Tile right now, and in fact, when I looked for stakeholder feedback about the condition of Tile, I heard from many teachers the frustration with wireless access. So we moved that up. We did just complete the bid process. It was nailing down the numbers with Nick today. It's not finalized because we still have to do reference checks, but based upon that bid process, we do think that $60,000 is just about exactly right. We get reimbursement through E-rate for work on our wireless infrastructure. Our current reimbursement is 70%, but it fluctuates quite a bit. We don't know that we'll be 70% next year. We budgeted it here as if that reimbursement rate is 60%. So in other words, the total cost when we finished with the bids came in at about $119, and the district's cost portion of that, if it were 40%, would be $47,000. Then there's another about $12,000 in E-rate fees that we have to pay. That brings that total cost to that $60,000. So the project costs much more than that, but we do have the E-rate funding to defray those costs. Not exactly sure how much. That it seems to be, particularly as we're working in our one-to-one environment, something that is a really pressing issue for functionality at Tile. Teachers describe losing a lot of instructional time around that wireless access right now.
So can we talk about that for a second? What is the failure rate of this, and how is it affecting daily life at Tile?
There's constant connectivity issues, so it will be working. If a staff member steps away, they'll have to reconnect. There's parts of the building where it really isn't working well, so When we do our state testing and we have a lot of students on a device at one time, it's just not, it's functioning, it's just not as reliable, I think, as we need it to be.
And of course, there's no warning, it's throughout the day.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it also affects the Zoom meetings that go on,
the Zoom, like 20 minutes into a
Yeah.
Zoom, typically,
Yeah.
they disconnect.
And this is not a lack of anything. These access points and the wiring have a life. And we knew they've been in the capital plan, they were reaching the end of life. We just needed to switch the two because we think we can make the high schools work another year. We don't think we can make Kylesville solve right now. The next one is kind of what we were talking about with the tennis court track issue. So we had $1 million bond that was to cover both the tennis courts and the track. Initially, we thought there was enough in that $1 million bond to do both of those projects. As I told you, the tennis court came in at 920, or it's not quite done yet, but we are locking in the costs at $925,000. That leaves us $75,000 left for the track work. The track resurfacing, we're nervous about putting off because at some point, we're no longer going to be able to resurface it, we'll need to replace it. And if we replace it, that's Steve estimated at about $2.2 million. So nothing in the ballpark of, 100,000, but 2.2 million. So we do think it's important that we move forward to this as we planned when we put the bond together, but we don't have enough money left in that bond to cover the whole track resurfacing project. So that's why you see this here. We've got the estimated cost that we had set up for the bond, and then inflation cost, and then subtracting out of that the $75,000 that we do have available.
So to put this in perspective for the board, these are the track and the football field that are beyond life expectancy. When they were installed, they were already beyond life expectancy. So this isn't a luxury by any means. It's kind of like the boiler system at Tile. We pushed everything to the limit, and that's really where we're at on this. So I just want to emphasize.
25 years? Well,
Pardon me?
isn't it 25 years for the field? Is it over 25?
The field is now 15 years at least.
So what's the lifespan of the field?
It was 10. It was 10 when they put it in, Joe.
Oh, okay, was
Yeah,
it?
we're double that. We're 50% more than what it was supposed to be. But it's in excellent shape thanks to the staff taking care of it.
And we don't actually have that turf replacement in for another few years.
Yeah.
You see it at the very end.
Yeah.
The reason we have the track now is we think if we wait until we do the turf replacement, if we were going to say let's bond those two together, that we might lose the track, and then it would be a much more expensive project. The resurfacing and recoding of the track would be a way to preserve its life because we're skilling it back up again. So that one we think we need to move forward with now. I did talk to Steve a lot about, is there any thought that we might do damage to that new recoded track when we do the turf replacement? He said not at all. The turf replacement really is like carpeting. So it's not something that they'd be, bringing in heavy equipment and, driving over the new track. So he didn't think there was a concern with doing this first and then the field later. And that we already had talked about when we did put the bond in, because we always intended to do it first. The next item 6 is one that we have moved forward. This was further out in the capital plan, but as Steve described the condition of this tank that's used at Tile in the kitchen for grease separation, that there's a very significant issues with that tank. There's a very distinct sewer odor coming out of it, and he said it really stinks. That's a tank that we have a pump in that pumps up to the sewer line because the tank's below the line. They're actually going to be taking the pumps out. We can continue to use those pumps. We replace those periodically. The pumps themselves are not the expense. They're like $1,500 for the pump, but the tank is a very significant expense. So that's what you see here. We are considering, Kathy and I, if there's a way that Carol Dodson's food service budget could support this rather than paying, asking for the town to support it through capital. So stay tuned on that. We won't know until we completely plan out the operating budget whether we could pull this out of here and put it into the operating budget or her budget. Wouldn't be the board's operating budget because her budget. She's a self-sustaining program right now. And The next one, as you see, if you look at that, we've moved over a column. Now I'm out 2 years. So the bus garage underground tank is 25, 26. And actually, the work would be done in 2027, but we need the money through the FY 26 capital project, because the way the money flows from that, we've got to do this in 2027. Our tank legally cannot stay underground after 2027 because it was installed in 1997 and it can't be down there for more than 30 years. So we've got to pull that up. The proposal that's priced here is getting us out of the underground tank business. We already have done that at Oakdale. Palmer is the only other place where we still have an underground tank, and we will be looking at moving that up in the future as well, but its 30 years aren't up yet, so we're good for that one. We want to move it up. We want to replace it with a 6,000 gallon tank that would be split for 3,000 gallons of gas, 3,000 gallons of diesel, and we have buses that operate both on gas and diesel, and of course it serves our maintenance vehicles as well. So if you want more detail on this project, I can certainly give it to you, but it's, as I said, another year out. So traditionally, we kind of skim these a little more and go into greater detail the year it's due, but you could certainly ask me questions on any of these.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be similar to what's at the Public Works garage, right?
I know the one Steve used as a model was over in East Line. He went and
Okay.
took a hard look at that one to use that as a model for how we'd site it and locate it and sort of build the base up for it and everything. And this price, of course, nothing's exact. That's a couple years out, and these aren't bids, they're just quotes. But that would include everything except we've put money in a contingency where you see other costs with a 10% contingency for any contaminated soil that we find. Steve does not anticipate that we'll find contaminated soil, but of course if we do, then that becomes another project and additional cost.
So how do we put money in contingency since we don't have contingency in our budget?
You see this project total cost, it says other costs with a contingency.
Okay.
So that rolls in a 10%, which would be cost escalation of this project, because we're talking a year out, and contingency for cleanup if there is cleanup. So it's possible if we didn't need that this could come in less.
All right, thank you.
Next, you see the MHS wireless upgrade. This cost is reduced. Based upon the bids that we received for the tile project, Nick looked at all the pricing of that and looked at what we need at the high school. And you can, and I'll reprint this before we put it in everybody's budget binder, you can reduce that cost from $94,000 to about $60,000. That still includes a cost escalation. The high school has more access points that we can reuse than tile does. So that total project, he thinks, even with a contingency for cost escalation, would come in around 60. The next one, sorry, too many at once, is been in here for quite a while, and we've been pushing it out and pushing it out. We think it's probably about time to address this, and this is the front stairs and walkway at Murphy. Those front stairs have been crumbling for a long time. Steve has very successfully filled them in with some kind of epoxy resin patching thing that's worked pretty well, though they're certainly not beautiful. But we do think the time has come that we're going to need to actually replace those. So this would be the stairs and the sidewalk, making sure that we've got the handicapped access to get up that sidewalk and remove what's there. We would reuse the railings, reuse the side walls, but the stairs and the walk in front of it would be replaced. We think we can get another year out of it, as long as people don't take pictures on it. It's not pretty, but I don't think it's not safe. The next thing is something that came up to the board's attention last year. We were using a storage area at Murphy that was also a mechanical room, and with changed statute, the fire marshal told us that we could no longer store things in that same room. We do need the storage space, so we're looking at putting a fire-rated wall and door in so that we still have the storage space, but separated from the mechanical room so that we don't have to worry about the fire hazards. That's a pretty minimal cost for that, and storage is something that we really struggle with because we buy things on bid, as you know, in the spring and summer, and we're storing all year, so that storage space is important. Then we go into a couple other items that were in the security grant that we did not get, and that is exterior door replacement. We have done some exterior door replacement at some of our schools that were grant funded when we put the security grant in, but Oakdale was not in that grant funding, and we have just rotted metal doors. One thing we'll talk about after we finish this is taking some tours of buildings, because we can show you some of these things, and it's helpful to know those as we're going to the town and asking for money and you actually see them. But and Steve and I talked about this a little bit more. We salt a lot, and we have a lot of metal door fixing doors, and they get salted all winter long. Maybe this is something, as well as we're replacing the rotted ones, that we want to think about a better painting, on them to protect them a bit more than we are right now. And we, just for students and staff safety, we do have to salt a lot. We can't have people walking in on ice, but as you know, metal and salt in the winter is a great combination. So this is, again, at this point, we're not anticipating security grant funding, but this is a year out, and that security grant pops up. So I'm hopeful it'll pop up again. As soon as it does, we're ready to submit everything and see if we can get funding for it. Title has a similar issue, and the exact same kind of project needs to be done with Title. I talked to the principals, think there are a few other doors at other schools, and I talked to Steve about that, but I don't think would rise to the capital plan cost. Those are smaller projects that we've got. And then, if you have looked around in the library, you have noticed over the last couple years that we've got a significant moisture problem in the library. We have removed and had to discard many of our books because they had mold growing on them. We now have a dehumidifier that we turn off for our meetings because it's pretty darn noisy, trying to control that moisture problem. But Steve believes, coming through the floor, our carpet in here needs to be replaced anyway. It's pretty badly stained. It's 17 years old and has seen better days. But what we really need to do is get a moisture barrier under the carpet. That's the bigger expense than the carpet, to see if we can stop that moisture problem in here. Without that dehumidifier running, there's a significant odor in the library, and it's significant. We discarded, I don't know how many books, a lot of books. Paid a lot of students. Luckily, it wasn't mold that you couldn't handle the books, but paid a lot of students to come in and work with the library media specialist to do that discard work. The one thought, and this is out a year so we can wait and see, is if the school were fully air conditioned, would the moisture still be a problem here? So if we get the HVAC grant going and we go forward with that, maybe we just need to replace the carpet and not worry about the barrier, but we don't know that. So at this point, we've got the total cost in here. I mentioned to you before, and the reporter picked this up like it's work we're going to do in the near future, that at some point we need to take a look at our bus garage facility itself. That is a metal building with a lot of rot on it, lacking ventilation in the garage bays. I am not proposing that you don't see anything in here of a bus garage replacement. It is 5 years. But someplace out there, we need to start to think about it. And what several of the town councilors asked me is there a longer look at our funding than 5 years? Do you ever look past 5 years? So I want to be able to say, this is coming. It's not coming in 5 years, but it's coming at some point, and what are our options? Where would we site it? How, could we make use of what we have right now? In what way? And what would the total cost be? So we just have a heads up. So when the reporter was talking about writing an article on a new bus garage, I was like, wait, I'm not saying we need a new bus garage now. Please don't do that. But I'm not sure if that was clear in the article. I'm not saying we need a new bus garage now, clearly. But I do think that it would be nice to know what it would cost. The Montville High School baseball field renovation is also slated for 2 years out. This is renovation of the infield, and it's also replacement of the out-of-bounds fence that's deteriorating.
What's the time frame when that was last done? Do you know?
No. It's been some time.
Been a couple, would we say at least a decade?
Yes.
At least?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't remember it being done since I've been on the board.
Okay, 2 decades.
I'll check. I can get you that.
Thank you.
The next several items are generators at the 3 elementary schools. We have had these in, we've pushed them out, and we've pushed them out, and we continue to push them out because, excuse me, when I look at our other priorities, they seem more important than the generators. And I anticipate you'll see us continue to push them out because they're significant costs. So you see Mohegan, Murphy, and Oakdale all here as generator requests. You see them all in over $200,000 to over $300,000 range ticket items. And quite frankly, when we lose power now, we manage. We have flashlights, we know how long the emergency lighting will work. We have kids go into the bathroom with teachers, and we have a plan. We send kids home, is the bottom line. After X amount of time, we say it doesn't look calling utility, et cetera, it doesn't look like it's coming back on, we can't stay here any longer, we need to go home. So I don't know what I actually said to Steve and Kathy, should we just take these out because we keep pushing them out? They thought it was important that we keep the thought that it would be nice to have generator power, it would be safer, it would feel better when the power is lost. We were talking to the principals the other day, it's pretty dark, but it's a lot of money. So they sit there in 26, 27 right now, and you can certainly make a recommendation.
Does your security system continue working even when you lose power?
So certain things are on backup, but the phones is one that's a bit of an issue because our phone system is one that at some point we're on cell phones. And we'll put out to parents through school messenger, Murphy's without phone service, please call the office. We know who's everybody's cell phone numbers over there, so we'll call. So there is a safety issue too, and it's not like just a dream, it would be nice to have. There's a concern there, it's just, does it rise to the level of we can't do instruction because we can't get the kids on the internet and they can't take their state tests because we can't get them on? No, we've got a solution, go home.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. The Montville High School office carpets are original, not original, but 17 years old. In other words, since the renovation, they're the same carpets that we've had, and we just have that as a placeholder 2 years out as well. There's some bubbling in the summer, in humidity. You see that moisture causes it to bubble up in areas, but we think it can last for 4 years. Oakdale paving. This is a tiny little bit of a paving project. We redid most of Oakdale in a paving project that was several years ago. There's a tiny little area that is where the front drop-off driveway is from the flagpole over to the handicap parking. So that part wasn't replaced, and it does need to be replaced.
Seems like a lot of money.
Well, maybe I shouldn't have said tiny. When I say tiny, I mean compared to the whole thing. Well, I mean, the whole lot is huge.
Right.
Like when you see the tile parking lot cost, you're going to be shocked. But this is not, this is just a section. Here's the turf replacement. We've got that in 26, 27 right now. It's doing well. We're able to, handle the little issues that we've had with it, but it's going to be end of life, as Will said. It is technically end of life when we have it in here as a heads up. That's a big ticket, $800,000. Of course, all of these things are based on quotes we're getting now that we're just adding an escalation to. They'd go, something like this would go out to bid for a real cost. As we get closer, when it's the actual year, then we'll get a tighter bid. As it is now, we got a bid and we keep escalating it. Here you see the tile paving. We're looking at planning and engineering in 26, 27, and then the actual repaving. Tile's got a huge amount of paving, and it's over $1 million. And the last one, we're taking off. So I just put it here so you can see this has been on the plan for a number of years. We don't think we need to do it. The lockers are metal. There was a time when Steve thought that we would not be able, the paint would be chipping and they'd look so bad unless we did an electromagnetic process to bond the paint to the lockers, which is a costly process. But we have for years at both the high school and Tile, in the summers, we have summer workers, they're typically kids, that go around and just paint the parts of the lockers that don't look good, and it works. They look nice, and they're not chipping, so we all agreed, let's take this off and keep doing what we're doing. So that's the 5-year look right now, with one caveat. The other thing that's that we wanted to do as we're, and I'll talk about this a little more, but trying to master plan out to the future is, so let's deal with our roofs. As you know, we are doing a full tile roof replacement, but our other buildings are patchwork of, we've done a partial roof replacement at Murphy, but there's a bunch that isn't replaced. We've done a lot of leak remediation at Palmer, but there's a section of roof that needs to be replaced. So we did just commission a roof study that we paid for out of our operating budget this year so that we could get a sense of what's the condition of all of our roofs, what is over 20 years old, under 20 years old. They kind of mapped out all of the roofs and we can see every section. And then they gave us in 2024 costs, what would it cost to replace that. We just got that by email last night, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Kathy or Steve about it at all. But where we will want to put this is a large portion of these roof replacements would be eligible for reimbursement at that about 71%, but there are significant costs. So I want to have them in the plan someplace, but whether they're in 5 years or they're in my district master plan is something we can look at further out than that, is a conversation that I need to have with Willie and Kathy and Steve to see where we're going to locate these. So next meeting, after we've had these, and honestly I've just paged through them, we'll add these to either the 5-year capital plan or the district master plan, looking at, it's going to be further out than 5 years. Those are significant projects, but a lot of reimbursement as well.
Everybody have any questions for the superintendent? Well, I do. So where are the cameras for Mohegan and Oakdale? Security cameras.
So they're on the agenda a little later in the meeting.
I just want to throw that out.
It's an agenda item.
I don't want our administrators over there going, where's my cameras?
It's on.
All right, thank you. All right, next item, district master plan presentation.
Okay, so as I alluded to, a longer look out than 5 years. Let's really think about the life of our buildings, their ability to serve our needs. What does that look like? And we've not had that before. Part of the HVAC grant application required that, so we worked really hard to put together a district master plan, and you see that full document with, there's a little bit that still needs to be done, I'll tell you what that is as I go through it, for your perusal in the board materials. Last month we talked about the transportation section of that plan, but we didn't talk about any of the rest of it. So I just want to walk you through what's there, ask you to take a look at it, and then if you have thoughts, feedback, questions, concerns, ideas, let me know. But if you scroll through that master plan, you'll see that it starts with what's our enrollment, because that's the first thing the state wants to know. Are you thinking for the future? So 10 years out, the enrollment study we just commissioned says our enrollment will be exactly what it is today. So it's up and down tiny little bits, 5 kids down, 10 kids up, but 10 years out, it is the exact same number as it is today. So enrollment is really not a factor in thinking about, will our schools meet our needs? They meet our needs now in terms of numbers of students. They should continue to meet those needs. The next thing in the master plan you'll see is all the information about the HVAC project and what we're doing with that. And after that, you'll see the facility department, everything about the bus garage, the buses themselves, the fuel tank, all of those pieces. Following that, we go building by building through. So if you scroll through that master plan for each building, you'll first see statistics about the building. That would be the age of the building, the age of important parts, like when did we replace windows, when did we replace flooring, when did we replace roofs, so you can see all of those pieces there. Information about utilities and fuel use and consumption and so on. Square feet, just all of the kind of statistics of the building that Steve typically shares when we go on those facility tours are there. Then you'll see maps of the buildings and grounds. We can get into those on this public-facing website. You cannot, because we, as you know, don't make our school facility maps public, so I've made those, only people with access can get into them, but they're part of that plan. And after that, we show the capital improvements that have been put into each building, building by building, 5 years past, and then look out to the future. So, we'll be putting, wherever these roof projects fall, they'll be added to that master plan so that we can see where in the future we're projecting that work. Then you can see an evaluation of the current conditions, both of the building and the technology. That would be not like Chromebooks, but the capital based technology in the building, like the wireless and so on. And finally, you'll see a section where we've engaged stakeholders in providing feedback, because some of this is programmatically, instructionally. Do the facilities as they're laid out right now meet your needs? Not what do you need for desks, but does the layout of classrooms, the layout of common spaces like a library or a cafeteria meet the needs of the facility for the foreseeable future? And we're still collecting some of that stakeholder feedback. So you can see stakeholder feedback very specifically for Tile, the high school, and Palmer. My elementary people were gathering that feedback right now. We just met with groups of teachers and asked them to go back to their buildings and try to get that information. As I said, we'll also add the results of the roof study to that, but there's a lot of information there. We worked hard, Steve and Nick and Kathy and myself, in trying to just pull everything together from a lot of different places and get it in one place, thinking that would be really helpful for the town council, Joe, as they ask questions about, so, is it worth putting this much money into a building now, because how much longer are you going to use it? If we're saying, yeah, it's got to, can meet our needs for another 30 years, absolutely, we should probably repair that roof, but at what point do you make a decision that maybe not, because it's time to think about something different. So try to get all that in one place for you.
I have a question, and by the way, I thought that the stakeholder input that you mentioned was really thoughtful, things like soundproofing for some rooms, and I thought that was very valuable to see that. My question is, when you have to plan for how many students that you're going to have, there was a number that stuck out, which was the high school, you have to plan for 59 more students than you currently have. I think it was something like 59.
The high school is a tough one to figure out because the number of students that go to tech schools and
that was my question.
Yeah, so I have, and when we go through the budget and I present all of, because when we do the budget, we budget by student, so you'll see that. But I have a formula I use, which is based on a couple years of past trends. It does fluctuate surprisingly a lot. From one we were thinking, wow, we really stemmed the tide and they're staying here, and then the next year it popped back up again. And the issue with the tech schools particularly, well, the VOEX as well, is they provide things we absolutely can't provide. So it's not like we'd say, how do we bring those students back? Like a magnet school, these are programs we don't have. So, but for us to absorb a difference of 50 students at the high school is pretty common. That wouldn't be a difficult thing for us.
That was my question. Like, you actually have to plan for additional classrooms than...
Not for 50 students, no.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. That's very, I think this will help the town council going forward, and it'll also help us.
What?
For planning purposes.
Yeah.
District master, I think it'll help immensely.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll have to talk to some more about it.
Yeah, and I'll print a copy of that up for you, Joe, as well, so you can bring it.
All right, discussion to schedule tours of schools and the bus garage.
So the question I have for you is, in past years, as we're in this process of, we've got a draft of a capital plan, we'll refine it over the next month or two, we'll bring it to the town. It's been helpful for board members to go to schools and actually see things. Particularly with the new board members we have that have never taken a tour of the schools. I know I have a district parent advisory group, and I have some parents that are interested as well in just, being, if the board's doing this, obviously there are public meetings walking along also. So if you're interested in that, what we've typically done is book a couple nights, and then we just go take a car caravan and try and do half our schools one night and half our schools the next night. We haven't included the bus garage, but since I've raised this question about that study, I think it might be smart to include that as well. I don't think many of you may have never been to the bus garage, so it's not a thing of great beauty, but it's functional. So if you would like to do that, let me know. I think it's a good idea because it is a lot of knowledge. And then I'll pick out some dates, and I just need to talk to Steve and Willie and see how we're going to do that. I did offer Steve a little time to do his moving if he'd come back and do night tours with us all. So he said he would do that. Well, yeah.
So the question of the board is, are there nights that just aren't good for any of you? Like a flat no?
I have a hard time with Fridays.
No, we would not do that.
I would not do that on Friday.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so you'll all be fairly flexible. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right, new security grant and funding for cameras at Mohegan and Oakdale Elementary School.
So you see those documents in your board documents, which were the requests that we replaced through the security grant for cameras at Mohegan and Oakdale. They weren't funded through the grant. I know that we've talked about the fact that we're nervous, particularly in those buildings where they do not have any interior cameras at all. We actually would like more cameras everywhere, but those two particularly. And you had requested I bring these forward for consideration for potentially using 2% funds for, since the grant didn't fund them. I would like to ask you to hold off 1 month. Once get just a bit deeper in the budget, I believe that we're going to see that we've got some money in our benefits account in this year's budget that we could transfer and hopefully cover the cost of at least a lot of this rather than dip it into the 2%. So if you, and I know it's an important item and it's important to the administrators as well, but I'd love to just see what we could do with the budget first and try and see if we can vote to make a transfer to cover that.
Fine, is the board fine with that? Yeah, we're fine with that.
Good.
Okay. Consideration and action to approve AP African American Studies course as recommended by the E&E Committee. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion.
Well, I can handle a good piece of it. What it is it's brought to us by our current teacher, excuse me. So everybody remembers we have the state mandated course. Okay, it's an elective. It's African American Studies and Puerto Rican Studies. It was a course mandated by the state legislature, and the teacher of it had a lot of requests from students and students wanting to take an AP course of the same African American Studies and Puerto Rican Studies. So she came up with an AP course. It's not really going to be any more cost to us. She's developing the curriculum. She's got it. Her current class as an elective has 15 or 17 students. I can't remember.
Right around 16, but she doubled it. This is her second year running it. Started with 8, and then she doubled it in 1 year, increasing the level of interest in this course.
So what this does is it allows us to also have another AP course that helps our AP course numbers, advanced placement courses. And I'd recommend the board to consider it.
Is there a reason why they chose Puerto Rico studies?
The legislature did that. It was an act of the legislature. It started out as two separate bills in front of the legislature, one for African American Studies, one for Puerto Rican Studies, and through the process of the legislature, they became one bill.
Does the curriculum have to be approved by you?
The curriculum, once it's done, will go to the E&E committee. Approved by you.
Any questions?
So we're going to approve it without seeing the curriculum first?
You approve the process to go forward, and then the curriculum you would approve again. So you're going to, at this point, the course would run, but you could say, okay, I need to go back and rethink something in the curriculum.
Okay.
So this would give us the ability to put in the course catalog and register students.
And it wouldn't begin until next year.
Correct.
Anything else? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, board. Next item is superintendent's mid-year evaluation. We will be doing that in executive session at the end of the meeting. Information items. Do you have any? Nothing. right, committee and liaison reports. Policy, there was no meeting. Education evaluation,
No meeting.
communications committee.
Well, Lori, Diane, and I met via Zoom with Erica Haynes. And Erica Haynes is the Director of Community Engagement. And what Erica does is she meets with parents, teachers, students, community leaders, and interested residents across Connecticut to help them better understand the state school finance system and how it impacts their communities. We asked her to put together a flyer, which she did. And I'm going to ask Lori that she distribute that to board members. Is that okay?
Of
course.
Okay. And we're hoping that you all attend. We plan on inviting just about everybody, especially the town council, so that they understand how our budget is financed. I'm going to also ask you, which I did at the last meeting, to distribute this flyer to everybody and anybody that wants to learn how our budget is funded. I think Eric is going to be great, and I hope you all will come. Joe, I hope the town council will come because you will be making all the decisions on our budget, and if all of you can understand how it's funded, that would benefit us all. Thank you.
And that will take place on February 1st at 5 o'clock here, unless we are so successful that we have to move the auditorium.
What date?
February 1st, 5 o'clock. So that's when the normal communications meeting is, and that will be our communications meeting. We've talked a lot about how to communicate the budget and thought this was a really good way to engage. We've got new board members, we've got new town council members, we have a new mayor, and let's just all sit down in one room and talk about where this money comes from and how does Montville fund compared to other towns, et cetera.
We're going to try really hard to involve students and parent groups, just about everybody, to help them understand the process.
5 o'clock.
5. She does a very nice job. I have listened to her. She does a very nice job. It's very elementary, basic, but it really gets right to the point of how schools are funded. And I think she does a really nice job.
And it doesn't sound like the most interesting topic, but she is passionate about it, so she's very lively and she's a very good speaker.
Thank you. Montville Education Foundation.
I did go to that meeting. They have planned their golf tournament will be August 12th. And they also spent a bit of time talking about other fundraisers that they might do, and the possibility of a spring pickleball tournament is something that they're exploring right now. It's the hot sport. No?
Okay, learn.
We had a regular business meeting last week, introducing because of the elections and the way some towns, we had a bunch of new board members come in. But it's basic, business meeting like this. There was nothing major or any new things come out. We've got a number of things working on. The biggest thing is what we're calling 51 Daniels Avenue in Waterford, which would be actually have a small infant toddler program as part of it, and it would be pre-K, 1-2. And then the idea from that is then we would set up the RMMS program to run 3 through 8, and then have the marine science program available. So realistically, somebody could start off as a toddler and go through all the Learn magnet schools. So that's, a big reach, but we've got a lot of stuff going.
Wow. Okay, thank you. CAVE NSBA, Carol?
We had our CAVE board retreat this morning. It was very well attended. The good news is that we have associate or area directors from all of the areas, which is good. However, Leonard Lockhart pointed out that if there are more people who would like to participate as area directors, we can find room at the table for everybody. And I'm going to try to reach out to Norwich, which is a CAVE member, because I had some conversation with Patrice about the challenges that their board is going through right now with big honking investigation, which they are doing the right way, but it's costing a lot to do it the right way. And just to see what support they might benefit from through K, since they're K members. Just, reach out and say, hey, we see that you've got this, and we want to offer support. So that's one thing. But we did look at goals that we had actually accomplished over the last cycle, and goals that we still want to keep in place. Mainly keeping in place supporting and educating boards of education so that they have the information they need to be effective, and also advocating, and, as we do not only with the legislature, but also with the executive branch and other organizations throughout the state to bring forward the importance of education in Connecticut and to encourage that it be a priority everywhere. And so that's pretty much what we talked about. Are there any questions?
Cave breakfast?
We did have our CABE legislative breakfast, thank you, Wills. Once something happens, it goes like right in the rear view mirror. It was well attended, but not everybody we invited was able to come. Kathleen McCarty actually did come in late, which was very generous of her because she was not feeling well. Holly did not make it. Kevin Ryan was not there. Kathy Austin was there. Trying to think who else we had for legislators.
Martha March.
Martha, that's right, Martha was there. We had a pretty robust discussion where a lot of it focused on the reading program, difficulties that districts are having with not being granted waivers. And we got a fair amount of pushback from our legislators saying essentially that we collectively had asked for this, and now that we had it, we didn't like it. And we said, we are all aligned, everybody's aligned, on the importance of reading, and we want our students to be successful. And we have a lot of high-performing schools, including many here in Montville, in case anybody doesn't know, that are doing a good job. And it doesn't make sense, one, to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and two, to spend a whole bunch of money that isn't in anybody's budget, bringing in new programs that may not be particularly well supported by the companies that are offering them as far as professional development. I mean, we had a huge presentation last board meeting about much of what's involved with English language arts, and if anybody didn't see that there was a lot there, there's a lot there. And to try to kind of rework what's being offered and do it in a different way requires a lot of professional development. And we have other professional development that we're already committed to doing. So
I thought that Kathy Austin was.
I'm sorry?
I thought that Kathy Austin was so far off the mark that it was embarrassing. I thought she had absolutely no idea really what she was talking about when she's faced at all of us sitting there.
I don't think people felt supported.
It's not even about being supported, she was wrong. She was wrong. And to make the comment that Groton, because of their military families, are the only ones that have, what's the word? Transient students? Seriously? What a stupid comment.
I actually left the meeting and had Nick run the numbers. I asked Nick to do research for our current seniors. How many of them were here as kindergartners? Just get a guess in your head what you think that is. Percent of our current seniors were, been here as kindergartners. Less than 20%. And then I asked him to do also our current sixth graders, how many were here in kindergarten, and it was just about 50, almost 50%.
But Lori, it was even about, the reason this all came about was because of an advocate for
for Hispanic students who were not reading. They're not reading because your reading program failed. Oh, okay. Well, are they English language learners? Are they moving around a lot? Do they not come to school? I mean, there's so many other variables. To just say your reading program doesn't work because they're not reading is you know.
Yeah, the college students they don't know how to read.
And now they're blaming it on the high schools because you're not teaching them how to read or to do anything else. You have failed them. And that's,
Is that what she said? You have failed them?
yes, yes.
That's nice.
It's your fault.
Very supportive.
It's your fault. And then the one next to her says, you asked for it. You asked for it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a spirited discussion. And I think that
She was spirited.
well,
I think everyone else behaved extremely appropriate.
No, I don't think that, I didn't mean to suggest that people were being inappropriate, but I think that people strongly advocated for the concerns that they brought to that meeting. I don't think that, whether or not it landed in a way that was effective, it remains to be seen, but I don't think that any of those legislators walked out of that room not understanding that this was a huge problem for all of the districts who were represented there. And we did have a brief discussion about kindergarten as well, but that was kind of on the tag end, and we didn't really get into it in depth. And as Lori has pointed out, she's not the only one to say, we've already kind of got plans in place, and we'd have to unmake things and make different plans if something changed at this point. But what isn't clear to me is what happens to ECS funding with the kindergarten enrollment.
My understanding is it will be held.
I heard that we had been held harmless for that transition, but when I hear my legislators talking about how there's no money, which really, I get worried about that.
Okay.
That's what happened.
I would have gone, but it was a 4-day week, and I really can't. I'm sorry, I missed that meeting. I would have enjoyed that.
I'm sorry you did, Phil.
Yeah. Okay, Montville Youth Service Bureau.
No meeting till March.
Thank you. Student board reps are doing what they're supposed to be doing, studying for exams. And principals.
I just want to report that in January, we started a before-school program for our 4th and 5th grade students, focusing on fitness through sports. The sports program will change throughout the year as the seasons change. Not only does it focus on fitness and sports, the fundamentals of sports, but also character, decision-making, and leadership. It started off 1 day a week for boys, not 1 day a week for girls. The turnout was so impressive that we had to extend it to 2 days a week for boys and 2 days a week for girls. We have about 16 boys that show up at 7:30 in the morning and about 12 or 13 girls. So not only getting fitness and foundations of basketball right now, but also learn a little bit about character, decision-making, and leadership. So it's all volunteer as well. So
Who's running that for you?
one of our staff members.
Volunteer.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm just going to speak real quick on behalf of all 3 elementary principals that the month of January brings with it the transition back from the holiday break, but also in terms of academics, we need to, talking about the science of reading and that reading data that we learned so much about at the last meeting, we need to do benchmarking of every elementary student in the district. And sometimes with our youngest, they're being benchmarked in multiple different ways. So we have a tremendous team in all 3 buildings that do the same process. They come together, they make a plan, they make a schedule, there's snow delays, there's cancellations, and they seem to get it done in a remarkable amount of time, and then they get all that data together so that we can make decisions about any changes that need to be made, and it's really just, we wanted to make sure that that was recognized, that effort, and it always goes off, and we're really grateful for that, the work that they do to get that information to us so quickly. And the other point I wanted to make more personal is that I'm 6 months into this first year of being a principal for me, and I wouldn't have been able to do it if it wasn't for the support of my administrative team. I have a wonderful staff, but just, you know, the texts, the phone calls, the checking in, the, you know, how's it going? Do you need any help? Has been really tremendously helpful, so I'm grateful for that, so thank you.
Thank you.
I also wanted to speak on behalf of the three of us, but perhaps probably Rob and David and Greg as well. I don't know if they've met Officer T. Simone yet, but the third SRO has started, and he has jumped right into students. He is extremely comfortable. I mean, the first day in my building, first grader invited him to lunch, and I looked in the cafeteria, and there he was, sitting down eating lunch with the first graders. He has a great rapport with students. There may be some videos out there of him dancing with first graders also. And he is visiting classes and taking time to, you know, get to know the schools too. The first hour there, he wanted me to walk him around and, you know, show him the layout of the buildings, which he's already done with the other officers, but he wanted to, you know where the nooks and crannies were and you know what I expected of him as an SRO, and Officer D is what the kids call him, and they love him, absolutely love him. So, great addition.
Yep, I would also like to second that. He filled in for Mike Collins last week, a couple days, and jumped in like he'd been here all year. In the gym, playing basketball with the kids during PE class, monitoring the cafeteria during lunch, walking the halls. You would think he's been here since day one, and he was really only here. He started with us last week, so a great addition. Definitely kid-centered, kid-friendly, and really great to form relationships. And I just make a plug that our holiday concert got postponed to the 24th of January. They actually put on a preview show for us on the last day before we left for Christmas. It was a really great show. So the evening event will be the 24th. It's the day after exams finish at 7 p.m. in the auditorium.
Anything else? David? Nothing. Everything's quiet and calm. Okay. All right. Let's see. Reports on district operating plans. Special services.
So I wanted to share this month information about the Transition Academy, what's happening there with the curriculum and the work that they're doing. The Transition Academy students are working on their personal finance as well as a unit on disability awareness. Over the past month, they've been learning about the deaf community and different accommodations for people who are deaf. They've also learned different ways to communicate with these people who are hearing, with people who are hearing impaired. They're learning basics, American Sign Language signs, such as, you know, hello, how are you, nice to meet you. The next unit they will be working on will be about people with vision impairments. They will all do an individual project at the culmination of the unit. Each day, Monday through Thursday, the students also go out for their community-based activities. They participate in vocational activities, whether they be at Mohegan Sun or Dog's World, or some of them work here in town at the Country Market. Fridays, they are set for their health and wellness activities. This month, they are going to the yoga studio in Groton. Additionally, which is really exciting, we are beginning to develop transition activities for 2 of the high school students that will be transitioning there next year. So in February, they will start joining one of them will join the Fitness on Friday activities and the community activities, and the other student will join the vocational experiences. So it's a really nice way to get the teacher Lily to, you know, acclimate them to the program and them to the program. So we're really excited about that. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Assistant Superintendent?
Yes, hello. So January begins our assessments for the year, or for the spring, I should say. So first up is our English language proficiency assessment, which is our last link. So just for those of you that are new, I know you know this well, all students who are English language or multilingual learners must take the state assessment called the last links, whether they're in kindergarten through 12th grade. So you can imagine the struggle with kindergartners in this. So it monitors the language development in the areas of speaking, listening, reading, writing, and comprehension for academic achievement and college and career readiness. So again, all our students take it. It's about 90 minutes long, and we have roughly 98 students that need to take this test throughout the district. We use our L tutors as our district coordinator to administer this test. They create a schedule, and I have to say in the last 2 years, it's been phenomenal in terms of wrapping up the testing within the month of January, which is pretty good. So they've really come up with a method to be able to minimize the amount of time that students are out of their classroom, because remember, they really need to be in their classroom learning and being with other students. New last year was an alternate assessment that is available for students that take the last links, which is really, last year we had one student. Just to show you the difference in needs, this year we have 3 students that qualify, and really the state says less than 1% in the entire state should be, of English language learners, should be taking the alternate assessment. So we have 3 students lined up for that. We're almost done with the testing already at the elementary level, and we've moved on to the secondary level. You know, we hit a couple bumps in the road because of attendance and things like that, but we're still on track to finish in January. So when the students take this test, I just want you to be aware that the results of the test will tell us whether the student can exit language acquisition classes, as well as the status of being an L student. They need to perform pretty well for that to happen, and the state's overall goal is to try and get students that come in at as a new arrival to be able to exit within 5 years is their overall goal. And lastly, I'll just share that it's an important measure because they get measured on growth just like we measure our students with reading and math on SBAC for growth. So important that our students do well because it shows up on our accountability index. So we take it very seriously, and they're working really hard on that. These students in particular go through a lot of testing. So it's really hard on them because they have the loss, and then they have a little bit of a break, and then they go into, depending on their grades, the state assessments for reading, math, and science. I'll just say one more thing, because I know I told you about our students that were considered SLIFE students, and if you remember, that's students with limited or interrupted formal education. This year we have 2 students, which you know, requires significant amount of work and support, and just as an update, they are doing fabulous. Both of them, I do a check-in, and both of them are making friends. They're starting to read English, which is huge. They're engaging, and what's super exciting is that both of them have very engaging families. One at the elementary level is working with the tutor who works with the parents to help with homework, and the other sister who's raising the child is had got homework support for the student and is working with the teachers. So it's just really great to see that these students are everybody's responsibility and everybody's working together for them to be successful.
Thank you. Superintendent?
We'll talk for one last little minute about reading, and then we're going to stop that conversation. Wills and I met with the State Department reps this morning, and this was our request for reconsideration of our waiver. The meeting went really, really well. There were 4 people from the State Department who were there, and the 2 of us. We stated right up front, we understand that the program we're using to teach vocabulary and comprehension is not an approved program by the state. It is never going to be, and we know we need to change it. So really, I think there was a little breath of relief on their part that we weren't going in to do battle, but we were, saying we understand that we can't do that, but we're asking something that we think is reasonable. We also clearly stated, and this was really a lot in response to what we heard the legislators say, and another meeting that I had, that I want to go on record in Montville, we have never been and never will be satisfied if less than 100% of our students are readers. So it's not that, we think it's good enough if 60% of our students are successful or 80% of our students are successful. We want 100% of our students to be successful, and we're working really hard on that. And we have, over many years, put together a multi-tiered systems of support that is really strong, tier 1, whole class reading instruction. But then, as Liz talked about, we get this, all of this assessment data, and we put in supplemental tier 2 and tier 3 supports for students. So I just wanted to be clear, because there's quite a bit of talk that we're just not interested in making these changes because we're kind of the status quo is good enough. And I wanted to be clear that that has never been the case in Montville, and it never will be the case in Montville. Then we talked about what we were asking for reconsideration for, which was the components of our program that are covered by our foundational reading skills program, Open Court. Open Court is, as a total program, is an approved state program. We use it not for comprehension and vocabulary, but for the early literacy skills of phonological and phonemic awareness, phonics, rapid automatic naming. And since it's an approved program and we use it, we have all the materials. Our teachers have extensive professional development in it. We ask that it be an option, not necessarily that we would keep it, but be an option that we could layer in a comprehension and vocabulary program or keeping this state-approved foundational skills program. We expressed to them we have an ELA committee. They're working really hard. We have samples of every state-approved program and compendium component. We're looking at all of them. Every option is on the table, but we wondered if this could be an option as well. They received that. They listened really carefully. Both Wills and I felt good about the fact that we were listened to, that they would honestly consider our request, and that they understood it, that it seemed like a fair request. Whether they will actually honor it or not, the one thing they said that was encouraging to me was they asked us about our time frame. How are we doing this work? What's the progress of the committee and everything? Because I think they were trying to get at, so if you don't get a final approval from us for 2 months, what's that going to do? And I assured them we're not sitting around for 2 months waiting to hear from you. We're looking at programs. We've got a rubric. We're evaluating. We're in fact meeting on Monday with our team to go forward with that. But I said to them, listen, my understanding of our timeline is we have to have something picked by June and partially implemented for next year and fully implemented the year after. And what I was told was, maybe not, because your Open Court program is a state-approved program. So if partial implementation would be you've implemented a foundational skills program that is a state-approved program, even if you change to something else the year after, it would count for next year, which was nice in that we could slow the process down to be a comfortable process in terms of, as Will's talked about before, the level of professional development and training and implementation instead of we've got to do this whole new thing next year because there's this state timeline. But if we said we're going to, let's for example say, even if we say we're going to pick an entirely new program, we're going to really phase in next year PD on the comprehension component and keep what we know about the foundational skills, and then year after put that in and just make it a more comfortable transition, then that's a possibility for us. So that was encouraging. But both Wills and I left feeling it was a respectful meeting on both of our parts, and we heard them, they heard us, and we want to re-navigate that. We're partners, and we work really hard, and we're happy to continue to work hard with you. Next thing I just wanted to mention, because I think there were some things on, a couple things that I think have been out in social media or in public. One is around tech school transportation. Tech school transportation is almost always aligned with our transportation because we're, the tech schools are pretty close to us. I talk, whenever there's a weather situation, we have a stringing text going with every superintendent in the area. So we're all comparing notes and deciding together what are you going to do in each town, and changing. Like the other day, I said with the delay, you know, I think I'm gonna hold fast and wait till morning, and then, you know, I talked to Steve and police and said, never mind, I'm gonna delay tonight. But, you know, so we keep updating one another, and usually our conditions are similar. But there are times when they're not. So, for example, traditionally forever, if there's a snow day in Montville, but not a snow day at one of the tech schools or Ledyard VOAG, we do not transport to that school. Because I have determined in working with the Department of Public Works and the police and our maintenance crew that for whatever reason it's not safe to transport students in Montville, even if it is safe to transport them in Norwich or Groton or Ledyard. So we don't transport on those days. If we have a delay in Montville, but not a delay there, again, I've determined our roads aren't going to be safe for 2 hours, but we're going to be transporting in 2 hours, so we will transport to the tech schools. They'll all be late. You know, we'll be transporting on our normal cycle, but it'll be a 2-hour late cycle. The one that came up the other day, which honestly in my 5 years, I believe has come up twice. So it's not these are not common occurrences, but it's the opposite. Montville's on time, and the tech school is delayed. What do we do for transportation then? And that's a really problematic one, because I've determined our roads are safe. And determining our roads are safe, by the way, is not just a simple little, I wake up, look out the window and say safe. It's a lot of phone calls, a lot of conversations and back and forth with people, because it's changing over time. You know, now this accident happened here or whatever. So, you know, I can't in the morning, in the time I have, determine Montville roads are safe, Groton roads are safe, Norwich roads are safe, Ledyard roads are safe. I do Montville. I count on the other superintendents to do their towns. So in a situation where I say, I think Montville's safe, we're going in on time, but I hear there's a delay at one of those schools, I say, not safe for us to do the run at the normal time in that town. That's you know, they've set a delay there. So we can't transport. Our tech school runs on a typical day, the drivers check in at 5:15. They start those runs. They take about, 2 hours total. They take about an hour we have 5 buses that go around town, pick kids up. They all end up at Mohegan, and then we have 4 buses, 2 that go to one of the tech schools, 1 that goes to another, 1 that goes to Ledyard VOAG. Then they come back, and then they get back in our run cycle again. So it's a process. Not simple to just take that process independent of ours, because I'm transporting on time. So our transportation for our high school kids starts about 6. We're running until 8:45. So what the tech schools had said to us initially is, just transport them early, we'll have a monitor and take them early. And I said, I can't. I'm liable for their safety. You have said our roads aren't safe. Picture Norwich the other day. They weren't safe. You know, they had to evacuate, they had to ultimately close the schools down. If we had transported early, we'd have gone there in flood conditions, dropped the kids off, then been called to get them back because schools actually changed and closed. So we say on those days, we can't transport AM to tech school. Our only other option would be to do it after our runs are done. So we start tech school runs, that 2-hour process, at about 9 o'clock. We'd get them there about 11:30. My drivers can't work, especially if I had a tech school that had them start at 5:15, they can't go from 5:15 to 11:30. That's not in their contract, that now they're in an overtime situation, and I'm forcing them because they can't say no, because I get kids to school. So I did check with the attorney just to be clear, and the bottom line is the statute regarding transportation to tech schools and VOAG schools, we are required to transport when it is reasonable and necessary. And the attorneys read on that scenario that AM transportation is not reasonable. It's, you know, my liability in terms of safety versus I'm taking my drivers off their contract and adding time. So we have communicated, it's posted on our website on that rare occasion, and it's very rare, that Montville's on time and the tech school's delayed. We can't do the AM transportation. We can do PM, but we just can't accommodate it. So I just wanted you to be aware, because I know that, you know, there were some concerns about that were public. And while we talk about social media posts, we're aware that there were some recent posts about situations in some of our schools. Those posts upset me greatly. They're not accurate. You know, there's the ideal kernel of something that's true, but as at any time when information gets, you know, shared from one person to another, ultimately the story is not what's posted. We cannot and never will respond to any of those posts. information about students is 100% confidential and doesn't belong in social media, in my opinion. We will respond to any person who contacts us. So every parent who contacted us and expressed a concern about safety in any of our schools for any reason, we responded to that parent. That response is not entirely satisfactory, however. It says, you know, in that response, I can't comment to you about another student. I can assure you, and you do have to trust us, that your child is safe, because I am fully aware, and the principal is fully aware of the situation in that building, and we would not have a situation that wasn't safe. So we've had those conversations. In fact, I think almost every person that we've talked to at the buildings that were subjects of those posts was satisfied with the, you know, the response that they got, and they understand that it's not appropriate to post things or talk about students. I do appreciate if you see something like that, if you scoot it to me, because we don't always see it. I'm not a member of the forum. We don't always see everything, and it's very helpful for us to be able to reach out and start the process. So thank you for forwarding things that you see. I think that's all I have.
Any questions for the superintendent? All right, thank you. Citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments? Any citizens' comments? One more time. Any citizens' comments? All right. Thank you very much. Hearing none. Remarks. So I want to quickly talk about that Zoom meeting today with the state of Connecticut. Lori was brilliant. She won't say that about herself, but she was brilliant the way she articulated it. And I watched the faces very carefully of those four people, excuse me, the deputy commissioner was there also. And they were engaged. They were paying attention to what our superintendent was saying. I was impressed. And you could tell they were engaged. They just weren't looking at their phone or scribbling on a piece of paper. They were actually paying attention for 22, 23 minutes. As she said, I felt very good about it because we didn't go in confrontational. Said, hey, this is what we got. Can we work with you? Can you help us out a little bit? And I am optimistic about this. I know we aren't optimistic about a lot of things that come out of the state, but I am quite optimistic about this. So I want to talk about two things. One, social media. It's unfortunate, yes. And it was sent to me, and I had a discussion with the superintendent about that post on the Montville Forum. My personal opinion doesn't matter, but the board's opinion matters. So the board, in my opinion, I think we've discussed this before, should never comment on social media about stuff like that. And I appreciate it. We're all professionals. We're all here for a reason. We're here for a focused reason. It's called education. We have high-level integrity. That's why we sit on this board. It's expected of us as a community who elected us to represent them at the highest level. And so I do appreciate us staying off of social media. It is disturbing, though. I must tell you, I don't like it. I'm going to close by saying, fasten your seatbelts. We got a busy 6 months ahead. This is the busy time of the year. As you all know, I'm a former town councilor. This will be a challenging budget, not only for the school, but for the town. And I look forward to the way we've done it in the last few years, at least, being very respectful and very transparent. We will work closely as best as we can. Thank you to the counselors tonight for coming. It's going to be a difficult year, but I know we are capable. We have an excellent administration that's going to guide us to get from point A to point B. Future agenda items.
I don't know, Lori, I don't even know if it's a future agenda item. To me it is, but it may not be. I wanted to express some interest in doing a survey for a Pathways program, and I don't know if that goes to the E&E committee. Do you know what I'm saying? I want us to look into a course or a program that our students are interested in. And I spoke to a director at Groton, and she told me the best way to do is to survey our high school students and ask them what programs are they interested in. Is it EMT program? Is it fire? Is it, hospitality? What is the program they might be interested in? I think we really need to start pushing towards a pathways for our students. Right now our courses are great, but I don't see us going over the mountaintop here with this. So I don't know if that's a new agenda item or if it's E&E.
Absolutely, it's E&E first, and we can show you the pathways work we've done, but I know the pathways, things you're talking about of, really focusing more on like ED and things like that. And we did used to have more things like pathways for, health, starting with the CNA.
Nursing and things
so,
like
yeah.
that. And
So let's put that, start at E&E and then it, will come to the board.
That's fine.
Anything else, board members? So I'm going to start something new. I'm going to go around the table, and if you have something you'd like to share, I think now's the time to do that before we move on to the next item. Erica?
No, nothing.
Bonnie?
Nothing, thank you.
Lisa? Carol? Bob?
Nothing yet?
Tina?
I just want to thank the administrators and you folks for, I have grandchildren that tell me what's going on in the schools, and they love you. They love all of you, so I just want you to know that you're doing a great job.
Tim? Don?
Well, I think I shared mine. I almost started up.
No, it's fine.
Started up again.
No, we're a team, and it's a voice, and I want everybody to be included. Okay. So at this time, we will go into an executive session. Do I have a motion to go in executive session?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Hearing none, we go into executive session at 07:45.